This conference will now be recorded.
Then the employees are subject to the progressive disciplinary process up to and including discharge. After consultation with an administrative reviewer, a review of the alleged violations will be conducted, and the progressive discipline process will be initiated if evidence exists to support such charges. If such penalty is discharge, it will include a vote of the Madison County Board per our existing ordinance. These employees will also have the right to grieve whatever outcome is meted out by the circumstances. If the answer is no, based on a thorough examination of the facts, these employees will be reinstated without further charges. Let me make this point clear. The Madison County Board is responsible for formation and implementation of county policy and setting budgetary limitations. In some circumstances, the board may serve as steps in a grievance process for the purposes of due process or to confirm, appoint, or dismiss some appointed employees. Beyond that, county board members have no employees under their direct supervision. This matter has been investigated criminally at the highest level of Illinois government without a single indictment. At this point, I implore the board members to adjourn so the due process already initiated can take its course. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
That's Mr. Walters. Do I have a second? The motion dies for lack of a second.
Second.
I'm sorry,
I just seconded it.
I'm sorry.
Just seconded it, and I thought my mic was on, so I guess it wasn't. I
That was
second
Mr.
that
Madison.
motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mike Parkinson,
Yes, Mr. Parkinson.
I'm adamantly opposed to this. I think we need to go into executive session as it was scheduled and discuss this matter and move forward with this in the interest of the public. As we just heard from the public comments, there's outrage over this, and we need to move forward.
Thank you. Any other discussion or comments or
Mr.
questions?
King, Ms. Madison.
Mr. Madison.
Thank you. You know, I said one thing yesterday. I said I wanted to do it quickly, but the more I contemplated over this last night, I don't want to be rushed to anything because we're putting someone's livelihood and their reputation on the line here. I have a lot of questions about the process that has gone on. I know that the Attorney General said it didn't meet their level to prosecute. That's a very big concern of mine. I haven't seen the citations showing where several things are against the law. I've talked to people that said they don't think they are. I'd like to know the truth. I'd like to know the actual answer is what I mean. You know, there's a contempt case going on with the Sheriff's Department. I don't know where that stands. There's an investigation was closed by the judge. I'm not sure that I feel comfortable doing this without our regular due process. After being on the Personnel Committee for a while, I understand that we must follow that due process or we open ourselves up for liability. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Jack
Minner?
Minard.
Yes.
Yes, I agree with Mike. I think that we've had plenty of an investigation. I see no reason why we don't go into executive session.
Very good. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. McCray? Yes.
you know, my suggestion, I don't want to go into another investigation, but I would support an independent review. And an independent review would be something that may be a week or 10 days from now. And we would retain an outside expert, not from Madison County, who is, I would suggest the same person who's involved as a second opinion in the Pochard case. Try to retain him. He's an expert in wrongful termination. And I think we should listen to an outside expert who might guide us, hear both sides, and maybe help us shepherd us into a settlement that is good for everybody involved, especially the taxpayers in Madison County, because even if we if someone sues us, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars defending it, even if we're right. And I believe that it would be nice to have an outside expert that gave us guidance. And like I said, I would limit it to a week or 10 days from now. Most of us just heard about this less than a week ago. And I think that it would be prudent. And I think that taking a breath is a good thing at this point. And so I'm not sure that I want a postponement. It depends on what your postponement is, but I would say we would give someone a week or 10 days to retain an outside expert.
Point of parliamentary procedure, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Chapman?
First, I don't think that a motion to adjourn is debatable. Secondly, these concerns that are being raised by some of the members could be adequately addressed during a session. I also understand that Mr. Michael and some others have prepared agenda for this meeting, which I think would be most appropriate.
I'm sorry, prepared what? I didn't hear that.
An agenda for this meeting. I think Mr. Michael has discussed this with the state's attorney, and that they do have an appropriate agenda that would allow everybody's concerns to be addressed.
Well, Mr.
So
Chapman,
I'd like an up-down vote, because I don't think you can really argue adjournment.
well, I know it's a little bit unusual, but in the interest of transparency in this, I'm allowing that this evening. Any other sort of questions?
Yes, Liz Dalton.
Yes, Ms. Dalton.
I feel that we were called together tonight for a closed session to get the facts from the people involved, and I think that we should pursue that to find out exactly what their side of the story is. So I would like us to go into our closed session that we had planned.
Okay, any
Mr.
other
Chairman.
questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Dutton?
I agree. I think that we called the special meeting for a reason. I don't think we called a special meeting just to adjourn it in the first 10 minutes. I think we're all gathered together. It's time to discuss some things. And I think adjourning would be a big mistake.
I do want to just make a point that if I had a Bible here, I'd put my hand on it and promise not to waste time. If I do waste time next week, I'm calling for a special meeting like this would not hurt my feelings. But that, I'll leave it there. Any other comments or questions?
Chris Hankins.
Yes, Mike Parkinson.
Mr. Hankins, Mr. Parkinson, you've already spoken, I believe.
I agree with Ms. Dalton and Ms. Dutton and the rest. I think we're called to this meeting tonight. We need to discuss this. We need to let the employees give their side, go into our executive session like planned, and then we can decide what we want to do from there.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Point of parliamentary procedure. I get to speak again once everybody else has spoke.
Well, we still have people, I believe, who'd like to speak. So any other folks would like to speak here?
Mr.
Chairman,
Eric Foster.
Mr. Foster? Yes, Mr. Foster.
I agree that if we gathered here this evening to obtain information, I do not have a problem with that whatsoever. However, I caution everyone on this board that there's a lot of information that's passed hands in the past week, and I'm sure there will be a lot of information given to this evening. To rush a decision at this time, I think would be a mistake on our behalf. All right. And I would firmly agree with what Ms. McCray addressed earlier. I am in full support of an outside review of the facts. And based on that review, we would move forward from there.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Madison?
Mr. Madison?
Thank you. You know, after considering that, that's probably the right advice. I don't think that we can adjourn the meeting, because if members call for a meeting, I think there has to be a meeting. I would be for postponing or for tabling it until the investigation's over. Maybe that could be for a certain period, postponed for 3 to 4 weeks. in order to find an investigator, like Mr. McCray mentioned. I think that's a wonderful idea. I think it's helped us in the past. None of us, none of us are lawyers. And I'd be willing to make a motion to postpone.
Okay. Mr. Walters, would you be willing to withdraw your motion for an adjournment for a motion to postpone? Mr. Walters?
I'm sorry, I will withdraw.
Would you withdraw it, and then I would, okay, so you've withdrawn your motion to adjourn. I would entertain a motion to postpone for some period of time.
Point of parliamentary procedure, the person to second it has to withdraw also.
Mr. Madison, were you a second on the motion to adjourn?
I was, yes, I withdraw that motion. And what I meant to say was review, not investigation. I want it reviewed.
Corrected. I would entertain a motion to postpone for a period of time.
So moved.
I would make a motion to postpone for 3 to 4 weeks until we have a review in place and time to gather information and review that, have that review completed.
Would you make that 3 weeks, Mr. Madison?
I will make it for 3 weeks, yes.
Mr.
Okay, we have a
Chairman,
motion to postpone for 3 weeks. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, point of parliamentary procedure. I speak, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion. Yeah, we have a motion to postpone for 3 weeks. Do we have a second?
I'll
Point of
second.
Parliamentary procedure. May I speak, Mr. Chairman?
We have a second. So we have a motion. Who's speaking?
This is Ray Wesley.
Mr. Wesley, yes.
I don't believe Mr. Madison was the second. I believe it was Mr. Moore.
That was me. It was Mr. Madison.
Our original motion was,
The original motion
was Mr.
I'm
Walters.
turning to Vanessa here. The original motion to adjourn was.
Mr. Madison, postpone it for 3 weeks.
Okay, I'm sorry. The original, is your question, Mr. Wesley, the original motion to adjourn?
That is correct.
Okay, the original motion to adjourn was
Madison
was Mr. Walters, and Mr. Madison was the second.
Drew.
I believe it was
And they
Mr. Moore because he had problems with his microphone.
Well, I think Vanessa recorded it as,
Mr. Madison said he had problems with his microphone.
Vanessa, you recorded the original motion to adjourn as, the original motion was Mr. Walters, and the second was Mr. Madison.
They both withdrew the adjournment to go.
Yes.
If it was Mr. Moore, I didn't hear it. He may have.
For the postponement.
Okay, this is the original motion to adjourn. The original motion to adjourn, as Vanessa has recorded it and as she heard it, was Mr. Walters making the motion to adjourn and Mr. Madison seconding that motion. And both have withdrawn, and now we have a motion from Mr. Madison to postpone for 3 weeks, and Mr. Moore seconded. Is that correct? So that's what the record shows. We do have another motion on the floor, this time a motion to postpone for 3 weeks. Would anyone like to speak on that? Any comments or questions? Mr. Wesley, I'll get back to you.
Mike Parkinson.
I've not forgotten about you, Mr. Parkinson. Mr. Wesley, would you like to speak, or should I go on to Mr. Parkinson?
I would not be in favor of postponing anything for 3 weeks. We've had an investigation. The investigation was completed by a high-level professional outfit, and I'm not in favor of postponing anything. I would be in favor of going into executive session.
Thank you. Mr. Parkinson?
I concur with what he just said. It's time to go into executive session and get this thing moving forward.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, Jack Minner.
I'm sorry, Mr. Minner. Go ahead, Mr. Minner.
Yes, I agree with Ray and Mike. I think that we've whipped this dead horse far enough. I think we should finish our meeting here.
Thank you. Mr. Foster?
Yes, I just want to make it evidently clear that by asking for an outside review in no way reflects that anyone questions any of the professionalism or quality of the investigation work that was done by the investigators at this time. I think they've done an excellent job. I think I can speak on behalf of everyone on the board that they agree that they have done an excellent job. This is not a reflection of their hard work. It's strictly an interpretation so some people can feel more at ease making a decision.
Thank you. Mr. Moore, would you like to speak?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like Mr. Wesley said, there was already an investigation that was conducted. He felt it was highly professional and thorough, and I agree. I do not agree with another investigation. However, I would agree with a review of the information we have. I think that's prudent to take the time to be cautious and move forward with that. And honestly, the bottom line is if we already had an investigation that is receiving rave reviews from some of the members, why are we not using that as the end result?
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman, I'm sorry.
Glasper? Ms. Glasper?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am opposed to postponement. I think it's time for us to go to the executive session and take action.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Liz
Mr.
Dalton.
Chairman,
Ms. Dalton? Ms. Dalton?
I don't understand why we are skirting the issue of going into our session tonight. We were scheduled to do this, and it seems like everything is being thrown up as a barricade that we don't go into executive session. I don't understand what the lack of wanting to go forward is caused by the rest of the members.
Thank you.
Mr.
Mr. Chapman, did I hear you wanting to speak?
yes, please, Mr. Chairman. I'm not understanding what would be gained by immediate postponement because we can choose to defer making a decision after getting the information we wanted to receive from Mr. Hume and Mr. Dorman this evening through the process that I think David Michael and the state's attorney have come up with. Then should we choose to, and we wanted to have an outside person look at this, qualified, we could direct them towards our specific concern. And so I'm not understanding what gets gained by a postponement.
Thank you. Any other
questions?
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that I'm not necessarily saying we should postpone tonight's meeting. I'm just saying that I think we should retain someone who could shepherd us through the best process, whatever that process may be, and perhaps my suggestion can be brought up in executive session so I can further explain myself.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, Mr. Walters, is that right? Mr. Madison?
Yes. Thank you.
Madison.
Mr. Chairman, no one here is trying to skirt an issue. Like I said, it was on the Personnel Committee. Proper legal due process, as our policy says is necessary, is required here. We don't want to railroad somebody because people see blood in the water over the opposing party. And we want to do the right thing for the right reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, let's go forward. Vote. I'm sorry, Mr. Holliday, go ahead. Mr.
Yes,
Holliday.
sir. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think that with all the information that we have received from the investigation, I think that is prudent enough evidence of what we need to know. And now we need to hear from Mr. Hume and Mr. Dorr.
Very good. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, Mike Walters.
Walters.
Okay, I'm not so much in favor of a 3-week delay on this. I liked what Mr. McCray said, maybe a week to 10 days. I mean, if we want to go, I am starting to lean, listening to everybody talk about going in the meeting tonight, giving them a chance. I'd like to get some outside person to look at this also. Yes, we have heard the information is damning. We will hear from the other side tonight. However, 48 hours to me is not quite enough time. And so I'm not in favor of 3 weeks. So I'm not going to vote for that. I think we should, now the more I listen to everybody, we should go into executive session. But then once it's over with, I wouldn't mind.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, let's go forward. And this is a vote to postpone for 3 weeks. So a vote yes is to vote to postpone for 3 weeks, and a vote no is not to postpone. And then we'll go back to the original agenda. So we could have a roll call.
Ms. Kuhn?
No.
Mr. Moore?
That
Mr.
means
Moore?
No.
Mr. Chapman?
No.
Mr. Michael?
No.
Mr. Madison?
Yes.
Mr. Wesley?
No.
Mr. Walters?
No.
Mr. Holliday?
No.
Mr. Malone?
No.
Mr. Gray?
No.
Mr. Pollard? Mr. Pollard? Mr. King?
No.
Mr. McCray?
No.
Ms. Dutton?
No.
Mr. Hankins?
No.
Mr. Valentine?
No.
Mr. Minner?
No.
Mr. Parkinson?
No.
Ms. Navasic Caverna?
No.
Mr. Foster?
No.
Mr. Petrillo?
No.
Ms. Glasper?
She said no for Mike.
Okay. Mr. Goggin?
No.
Mr. Guy?
No.
Ms. Harris?
No.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Ms. Dalton?
No.
And Mr. Tricano?
No.
Okay. I want to say one more thing just briefly. As these employees' immediate supervisor, I will not concur with any disciplinary action this body takes without an impartial review and associated due process. And I warn board members that actions taken by this board may result in expensive litigation. Now, I have a question. Are Mr. Hume and Mr. Dorman represented by counsel this evening?
This is Doug Hume. We were told that no counsel could call in.
Okay.
I was told the same thing. My attorney,
Okay.
Ed Mormon, said he was told by Jeff Ezra that he was not allowed to be present or offer assistance. I could call him if I wanted to, but I would have to hang up to talk to him.
Okay. Is it your desire, just like to hear your opinion, would you rather have this hearing in open session or closed session?
I would rather have it in open session. I have a lot to say. You guys want the truth? I have the truth. I'll tell you guys what happened.
Thank you. So that, okay, I got your answer. Mr. Hume?
Listen, I just heard about what we're supposed to do or have this hearing like an hour ago from an intermediary from Jeff Ezra, and so I'm really not sure, what's going on right now.
Very good. I just wanted to get your opinion, and then because the executive session is on the agenda, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So move.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Holiday, second. Ms. Dutton, second.
I'll second it.
Okay, we do need to go into
Sorry.
executive session. Any discussion? Yes, we need a roll call. We can't do that on a voice vote. So any discussion? Hearing none, let's go to a roll call. We have a motion and a second to go into executive session to discuss specific personnel in accordance with IAW 5 ILCS 120/2 C1. Roll call.
Ms. Kuhn,
Yeah.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Chapman,
Yes.
Mr. Michael,
Yes.
Mr. Madison,
Yes.
Mr. Wesley,
Yes.
Mr. Walters,
Yeah.
Mr. Holliday,
Yes.
Mr. Malone,
Yes.
Mr. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
McCray,
Yes.
Ms. Dutton,
Yes.
Mr. Hankins,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
Mr. Minner,
Yes.
Mr. Parkinson,
Yes.
Ms. Navasic Caberna,
Yes.
Mr. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Petrillo,
Yes.
Ms. Glasper,
Yes.
Mr. Goggins,
Yes.
Mr. Guy,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Harris, Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Dalton,
Yes.
and Mr. Tricano.
Yes.
Okay, now the decision is who is remaining in executive session or who is not remaining in executive session.
Can Mr. Pollard say something? Just, I want to
Yes.
make sure that's
Mr. Pollard, would you please say something?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, there we go. Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
You recognized me at the beginning of the meeting. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, you dropped, your call dropped, so.
Okay.
You weren't in the roll call and we lost you. Sorry.
Okay, so. Huh?
Which is good.
Yeah, let me call Chris to shut that off and then. Or here, I don't.
I've heard that there is a desire that elected officials remain in the executive session and also attorneys, of course. And I would also request that Bruce Cooper and John Thompson remain in the executive session. I would entertain a motion, or if that would, I would just like to make that ruling if that's appropriate for everyone or for everyone. And then, of course,
Point of parliamentary procedure, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Chapman?
If my understand, when you mean attorneys, do you mean from the state's attorney's office, or do you mean either of?
I do. I think it's clear that Mr. Hume does not have an attorney with him tonight, and also Mr. Dorman does not have an attorney. I'm just trying to get a sense of what the board wants tonight in terms of who would be in executive session and who would not be. It looks like we do have State's Attorney Gibbons with us, and I do see Tanya Cook on the board and Jeff Ezra, and we do have Doug Hume and Rob Dorman here. And at this point, if it may be appropriate, if someone would like to speak up in terms of a desired plan.
Oh, wait a second.
Wait.
Mr. Chairman, Ray Wesley here.
Yes, Mr. Wesley.
I would prefer.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wesley. We need to hold on here for some reason.
Okay. There's an unknown here, and I haven't seen the name pop up. I don't know who that is. So
there's an unknown caller.
It could be their laptop name, and it registers like that when they get on.
Rob, is that me? Rob, is that me? Dorman?
No, you're good. No, you're good. The only thing if I lock it and I kick them out, I don't know who. While I'm out of the room, if somebody loses.
We have a caller that we don't know who it is. It's unknown. Can we make an educated guess?
Well, if you don't know. Yeah, I don't.
During roll call.
We may have to.
I did,
Why
yeah.
don't you ask everyone that called in to stay who they are and then eliminate it that way, because it should light up.
That's either kick them out or do that. That's about the only two ways that we could do that. If you want, which it's up to you, Chairman, whichever.
Just to be sure, we can I just read whose name is on the board here? Who I see? Can we eliminate them that way? Okay, I see Doug Hume, Tanya Cook, Mick Madison, Robert Pollard, Rob Dorman. Rob Dorman's on twice.
One's for his phone, one's for his video.
Okay, very good. Okay. Jennifer Zelzer, Judy Kuhn, Mike Parkinson, Bruce Malone, Amy Meyer, Phil Chapman, Tom McCrae, Rob Dorman again, Vic Valentine, unknown, Jeff Ezra, Mick Madison, David Michael, John Rakowski. John Rakowski is not an elected official. Mike Walters, Dalton Gray, Gussie Glasper, Debbie Ming Mendoza, Annette Schoberly, Clint Jones, myself, Chris Hankins, Christy Dutton, Jennifer Zelzer, Wilbert, yeah, so that's twice for Gussie Glasper.
She's doing the same thing.
Okay, very good. Okay, Nick Petrillo, Jack Minner, Chris Guy, Mallory Stoner, Don Moore, Matt King, Eric Foster, Liz Dalton, Jamie Goggins, Ray Wesley, Larry Tricano, Erica Harris, Doc Holliday, Kristen Novasic-Coburna. Have we missed anyone? Perhaps we should turn that one off.
You didn't mention Jeff Connor.
Did we miss who?
Is that Connor?
You didn't call Jeff Connor. I'm here representing the sheriff.
Okay, that's the one.
That's it.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Parliamentary procedure. Given that Mr. Rakowski was mentioned during the briefing that I attended, and perhaps in some documents that were provided by the investigators, is it appropriate for him to be in this meeting?
I'm fine with that. I'm trying to just meet the will of the county board. Yes, Ms. Dutton?
I really don't understand why it's not just county board members and the two employees and yourself. If someone could just explain it to me, I'm not saying they shouldn't be on the call, but I just really don't understand why Mr. Rakowski, Ms. Meyer, Ms. Schoberly even. I mean, I'm just asking. I didn't know if this should just be county board members.
That's a fair question. I just threw that out there tonight because this has all happened very quickly, and I think I heard in the wind that there was a desire to have all the electeds.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yes, Mr. Wesley.
Yes, I would prefer to have the meeting with county board members and legal counsel only. We don't typically go into personnel decisions with all the elected officials in a meeting, and I don't see this as any different.
I would request that, thank you, Mr. Wesley. I would request that John Thompson, Bruce Cooper, and Annette Schoberly remain in the meeting. But you're saying, but I'm fine with electeds not being in the meeting. If anyone, if I would like to, would you like me to do a roll call on that? Would that be a proposal, or would you like, is everyone okay with me just making that ruling? So that we would not have the elected, we would not have John Rakowski, but we would just have our normal personnel staff and the attorneys, and of course, Mr. Hume and Mr. Dorman. If that's satisfactory, I'm willing to go with that. If we could,
Mr. Chairman, this is Amy Meyer.
yes, Ms. Meyer.
Because of the allegations here involving, potentially all of the departments in the IT, I think it is relevant that the electeds be involved, and I would like to stay. Thank you.
I got to say something, please.
Ms. Dutton?
That might be true, but it's not Ms. Meyer's decision at the end. It's the county board and the chairman's decision. I don't think that anybody else should be on this.
I would like to honor the wish of Mr. Wesley and that we just restrict the meeting to our county board the attorneys, the two parties, Mr. Hume and Mr. Dorman, and our typical staff, Annette Shoverly, Bruce Cooper, and John Thompson. And if that's okay, we could just go ahead. I'll make that ruling from the floor. So if we could now exclude those additional officials.
I have a question.
She stayed.
Debbie will stay. Our county clerk, Debbie Ming Mendoza, will stay.
Jennifer.
So Jennifer Zelzer will leave. John Rakowski, Amy Meyer. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, Major Connor.
Kowski, you said?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, so let's just go down the list one more time. Amy,
I think we're good. 12 members did call for this special meeting. I'm flexible in terms of if any of those members would like to suggest a format or.
days or Connor's on there.
Yeah, Major.
He's supposed to stay, correct?
No.
No? Okay, sorry.
Again, we had 12 members request this special meeting. I'm open to a plan of organization for the meeting if ever anyone would like to speak.
Mr. Chairman, Mike Walters.
Mr. Walters?
I would like the two to have a chance to speak and then leave it up for questions. Because I think it would be good to hear their side of the story, and then I'm sure a lot of people have questions.
Does anyone else have any ideas along those lines?
This conference will now be recorded.
Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Minner?
You know, I've listened here all night, and I've read everything and studied everything I can find about this situation, and I'm totally convinced that I'd like to make a motion that Mr. Dorman and Mr. Hume be relieved of their duties immediately. Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
I'm sorry, who's that?
Kristen Nabasic.
You have a second?
Yes,
Any
sir.
discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Moore?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I feel like I need to say that I know what I hear a preponderance of board members saying. And I am also, I'm not happy, I'm not pleased with what took place. I do think there was some things that are unethical. However, I have 2 points. One is the investigation by the Attorney General. Came back and didn't file any charges. And Mr. Hankins, I appreciate you don't agree with me. However, my opinion is that carries some weight. That was a 2-year investigation of a Democratic administration investigating Republican administration, and they came back with no charges. So I have to think about that, which I do. And there's rumors going around why it wasn't done, but rumors are rumors. That doesn't sway my opinion at all. But I'm equally worried that we have the investigation telling us there's no criminal activity. And now that we heard that, we have a number of people that are saying, in essence, they're saying that I'm not happy with the result of that investigation. Screw that. I'm going to go forth and still go after these guys. It's almost like a vigilante type attitude that I feel that we could be going into. And I caution Republicans to think about they could be pawns following in the Democrats' footsteps of wanting to remove and damage this administration. Because it's not just Doug and Rob if they fall. Who do you think they're going after next? I just think it's dangerous for us to say we're not happy with the result of the investigation. We're going to take matters into our own hands and we're going to get what we want. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Liz Dalton.
Ms. Dalton.
I would like to say that I don't feel this was a witch hunt. I respect Mr. Moore for his comments, but we were given evidence on what took place. There's 20 of us that went over and saw the evidence, listened to what we were told. We listened to the two people tonight talk, and they more or less admitted what they had done wrong, even though they were saying in their testimonies that they felt they didn't do anything wrong, which, you know, kind of boggles my mind. But I do not enjoy the fact of having to relieve someone of their duties, especially at this time in life. But if they're doing misdeeds and intruding in areas that they are not supposed to be, and we have to represent our constituents. And if we are not willing to step up to the plate and say, these two men did something wrong and I'm sorry, they're going to have to be relieved of their duties. And that's just the way I feel. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, not an argument about it. I'm wondering if there's any sorts of fiduciary responsibilities we have as a board to reference severances, or is there anything in the employee handbook that gives us guidance as to what we have to do, or how long we have to wait before we let them know? Or I'm not saying that what Mr. Minner's motion is wrong. It's just I don't have a clear understanding of if we have any specific obligations under the employee handbook as to how to handle this. So I don't know if anybody can help me with that.
Mr. Gibbons, are you preparing something here? Go ahead.
There's a microphone right there. If you want to be on camera, I'm just saying.
Oh, I don't want to be on camera anymore, and I have to. Okay, this is Tom Gibbons, and I think Bruce may have some things to add as well. So that the resolution that was passed in 2018, amending the county's policies on this, provides specifics as to severance, and those are simply operative. Those, you know, in the event that there would be a termination of employment for anyone falling under those classifications, that would be operative. In terms of notice about things, I was asked by board members to prepare resolutions about that, and I'm happy to go into those, but those would only be operative once the board is, if the board takes a vote, let the board take a vote, and if so, then I could talk to you about those, but it will all depend on what the board decides to do. I think Bruce has some things.
That's just what I was going to suggest.
Okay, so yeah, so Bruce and I are in agreement, he says.
So we have to vote.
Call the question.
I'm sorry, but we have to vote before we know what the policy is regarding.
Well, I don't know what the board's going to do. Yeah, if the board doesn't.
What you're saying, Mr. Gibbons, is that if the board votes to terminate, then this policy comes into play?
Yeah, and there's we prepared a resolution that talks about notice and the process that happens. There's a resolution for them. Anyway,
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Shut up.
Call the question. Okay,
Point
we have
of
a
personal privilege.
Yes. Better. Yes.
Speaking to my colleagues, you know, this week, there were some of them that thought we should avail ourselves to some sort of an outside person to advise us from another state, actually. I'm kind of wondering what they think about that, if they still think they need to do that or if they're done with this. I don't know what I think about it, but
Don't have an opinion.
I'm going to call the question here. That's not germane to this conversation. I'm going to call the question.
Mr. Gibbons has a statement.
Consulting with my staff, there is a concern, and I apologize, Mr. Chapman, but I would ask and recommend that you not vote, that you abstain on these questions. And the reason would be, at least as to Mr. Hume, because you have a lawsuit filed wherein he is a defendant, and I would be concerned that it might be considered a conflict of interest for you to take action against Mr. Hume if you were to vote against him. So I would be concerned about that. Mr. Dorman is a representative of Madison County, is an appointed official. So I can't tell you what to do, but I would advise an abstention on your behalf.
I will follow your advice, sir.
So should we vote both
and to be
employees?
doubly safe, I will abstain on both.
Mr. Minner, would you like to reintroduce your motion for one employee
Mr.
rather
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the state's attorney a question before we do that.
Yeah. Just 1 second.
I'm here. Go ahead.
Mr. Gibbons, am I recognized?
My understanding is the chairman has recognized you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Judy Kuhn. I've been cut off a couple of times. Can you update me a little bit?
Judy, hold on just a second. Mr. Foster, go ahead.
Tom, if we take this vote, it would be in our best interest maybe to have a settlement offer before the vote, or can we still do this after the vote?
A settlement, you mean like a severance or something?
A settlement with that would stop all legal actions in the future if we had a settlement offer beforehand.
I don't think we
take a vote of termination.
I don't think there's
can we
time
do that?
Or I don't think you need to negotiate that in advance. That can be negotiated at any time. If you want my lawyer's opinion about when is the best time to negotiate, it's when you're in a position of strength. Right now, no action's been taken. There's a vote pending for action, but there hasn't been any action taken.
May I ask to clarify something, Mr. Gibbons?
Ms. Dutton, I think Ms. Kuhn wanted to speak.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I actually have been cut off a couple of times. My battery went dead, and I'm just trying to get a little bit updated. Have you voted, or what's going on?
No, we have not voted. We have a motion. Mr. Minner made a motion. We have a second to terminate the employees. I'm asking Mr. Minner, since I think State's Attorney Gibbons would prefer a vote, 2 votes, 1 vote per employee. Mr. Minner, would you like to revise your motion for 1 employee?
Yes, I will change for you. I'll make a motion that we terminate Mr. Dorman.
Mr. Dorman, okay, we have a second. We have a second.
Second.
Who was that? Chris Hankins, okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? We have a motion to terminate the employment of Mr. Dorman. Yeah, Ms. Dutton.
It might be for Mr. Gibbons. I'm not really sure.
Mr. Gibbons is not in the room right now.
Okay, well, I think what he was discussing, or what maybe Phil Chapman asked, we all as a county board passed a resolution in February of 2018, and it was the resolution wherein paragraph C, it talks about appointed officials and department heads serve at the pleasure of the chairman and the county board and may be terminated by the chairman and county board. The county shall provide appointed official department head 30 days prior notice of termination. And then later on, it says, in no event shall department of appointed official be deprived of any employment interest or property interest in said employment without being given a hearing. So I just want to clarify, that's the resolution he was talking about, correct? February of 2018, in which we passed.
Mr. Gibbons is not here to answer that question.
Okay, well, I think that's what he was.
Any
Anybody
other
else?
questions?
Yes, that is what I'm making reference to, because haste can make waste, and I'm not saying that it's wrong to terminate them if that's what the board decides to do. But if we have these new laws that we pass, or new employee handbook that we passed in 2018, and we thought it was important enough to change the rules, and then we don't bother to follow them, then that's not going to reflect well on us. That's my concern.
We do have a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
I hear
this is Jeff
Mr.
Ezra,
Parkinson.
if I may.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm asking to hear from Mr. Ezra. He's in the room.
Because Mr. Gibbons is not in the room, all I wanted to say is
Mr. Gibbons is back in the room.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Mr. Gibbons is back in the room. Ms. Dutton, could you please ask your question again?
I'm fine with Mr. Ezra answering it. He heard the question.
Yes, Ms. Dutton is reading from the correct resolution and ordinance that was passed in February of 2018. And the two provisions that she referenced are the two provisions that apply.
Any additional comments or questions?
Well, this is Judy Kuhn. I did not hear all this. Yeah, I have a question.
Ms. Kuhn, let me just, we have a motion to terminate the employment of Mr. Dorman. We have a second. That's where we are.
Right, but I would like to know what Chrissy is saying. She's saying there's something in the 2018 person in the handbook that we would be violating if we vote for termination?
Judy, no, I'm saying it's within our right to do so.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And thank you for giving me my answer. I appreciate that. So I heard it from two different people. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I moved the previous question.
Any other
questions? I moved
questions?
the previous question.
Any other comments or questions from county board members? If not, roll call. And I'm sorry?
On Rob Dorman.
Yes, this is a motion to terminate the employment of Rob Dorman. It's been seconded, and I would like to be the first to vote on this. I vote no because this process is so seriously flawed.
Ms. Kuhn.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
No.
Mr. Chapman.
Abstain.
Mr. Michael.
Yes.
Mr. Madison.
Yes. Oh, yes. Holy shit, he's gone.
Mr. Wesley.
Yes.
Oh, he's gone. Mr. Chairman, could we have people refrain from making comments during the vote, please?
Yes, that's fine. I didn't hear any comments. Well, maybe there's some background talking, but if we could continue with the roll call, please.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Mr. Holliday.
Yes.
Mr. Malone.
Yes.
Mr. Gray.
Yes.
Mr. Pollard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. McCray.
Yes.
Ms. Dutton.
Yes.
Mr. Hankins.
Yes.
Mr. Valentine.
Yes.
Mr. Minner.
Yes.
Mr. Parkinson.
Yes.
Ms. Navasic.
Yes.
Mr. Foster.
Yes.
Mr. Petrillo.
Yes.
Ms. Glasper. Glasper.
You're muted.
Ms. Glasper, you have your mute on. Well,
Goggin.
Yes.
Guy.
Yes.
Ms. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Dalton.
Yes.
Mr. Chicano. Mr. Chicano. Didn't want in favor of.
Motion carries. Would anyone else like to make a motion?
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is Jack. After I made the original motion, I will again make a motion that we relieve Mr. Hume also.
Yes, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second. Chris Hankins.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call. And I would like to be the first to vote no, again, because this process is so seriously flawed.
Ms. Kuhn.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
No.
Mr. Chapman.
Abstain?
Mr. Michael.
Yes.
Mr. Madison.
Yes.
Mr. Wesley.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Mr. Holliday.
Yes.
Mr. Malone.
Yes.
Mr. Gray.
Yes.
Mr. Pollard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. McCray.
Yes.
Ms. Dutton.
Yes.
Mr. Hankins.
Yes.
Mr. Valentine.
Yes.
Motions to give them
Mr.
their second.
Minner.
Yes.
Mr. Parkinson.
Yes.
Ms. Navasich.
Yes.
This?
Mr. Foster.
Yes.
I know.
Mr. Petrillo.
Yes.
Ms. Glasper.
Yes.
Mr. Goggin.
Yes.
Mr. Guy.
Yes.
Ms. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Dalton.
Yes.
Tricano. Motion carried.
Motion carries. Any unfinished business before this board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Is this Mr. Parkinson?
Yes, I think the state's attorney has some resolutions, 2 resolutions in reference to this.
I'm not aware of that. Are those on the agenda? Or were those under business?
These are on specific action on pertinent.
I don't see them on the agenda, but enough other unusual things have happened this evening. If you want to proceed.
I'm I was asked by board members to prepare, my office, my staff, I did not write these. My office staff assisted in preparing what was requested of multiple alternative possible resolutions detailing the board's decision this evening. So I have before me two resolutions, one entitled Resolution Reflecting the Madison County Board's Grounds for Termination of Employment of Doug Hulme. I have another entitled Resolution Reflecting the Madison County Board's Grounds for Termination of Employment of Rob Dorman that I was asked to prepare, or we were asked to prepare and have. If it will be up to the board. If someone would like me to read these into the record, or have the clerk to the record, or whatever, or if someone is moving to have pass one or both of these.
It would be the pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, this is David Michael. I guess I'm a little confused. I didn't get a chance to read the resolutions. I don't know what they are. Are we voting on these? Is that what we're saying?
You have to vote before you can read.
I just wasn't, there wasn't any resolutions attached to the agenda we were sent. I'm just trying to, if they can read them and explain them, then that's great. I don't know if anybody else saw them,
I don't know who did or didn't see them. I'd be happy to read one of them if someone would like to hear that and see whether that's something that is, my understanding is these were written to be consistent with potential different outcomes of the board exercising.
I think the outcome's pretty clear. Honestly, I think the outcome's pretty clear. And do we need to prolong it anymore?
I withdraw it.
I don't care.
Very good.
I was just asked to do work.
Yes, Mr. Moore.
I just have a question for the record. Could we have the state's attorney give the names of the county board members that asked for these resolutions?
I'm not going to discuss. I can't do that.
Why not?
If the board members want to identify themselves, they're welcome to.
Will any board members like to identify themselves?
Mr. Chairman, this is Chris Guy.
Yes, Mr. Guy.
This question, could you email these to us?
I'm happy to. Sure.
The answer is yes for Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
I would like that information into the record, if we could, please, whenever that information is available.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Any other new business? I'm sorry, yes, Mr. Minner?
I don't know why we're discussing these without having a vote on the floor to approve this or disapprove it. So would it be apropos to make a motion to pass these two resolutions and then we can hear them and so forth and so on?
Mr. Gibbons?
If they can, it's up to the board how they want to move on it.
Mr. Gibbons,
Mr. Chairman.
it's up to the board.
Chairman, Mr. Madison.
Mr. Madison?
Yes, Mr. Gibbons, do the resolutions completely mimic what's in the Madison County Policy Handbook? Personnel Handbook?
I did not prepare them. I cannot tell you that, but I suspect that is exactly what they mimic. Because that has been our guiding. I know that there is a reference to the February 21, 2018 resolution that created the policy, and section X of that policy in here. It's up to you. If you'd like me to read one of them so you can hear what it says, I'm happy to, but that's, again, the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to hear them. This is Judy Kuhn. I'd like to hear the resolutions before I vote on them.
Would others have any opinions on that issue?
I'd like to hear.
I have another thought.
I'd like to hear it.
I'd like to hear them as well.
I hear a lot of yeses, okay? So what would be appropriate, Mr. Gibbons? Would you like to read that into the record?
I'm happy to, yeah.
Can we vote on that? On these resolutions, if they weren't on the agenda?
These clarify what they just did.
I'm sorry?
It's just a written,
Oh, the
essentially,
question-
memorialization.
Question is, again, whether they were on the agenda. Mr. Gibbons is saying they just clarify the vote that was taken.
They're related.
And there is, it appears there is, a desire from the board to read the resolutions. Are these two separate resolutions?
They are, I believe, they read identically other than the name involved. So I will read resolution, the title called Resolution Reflecting the Madison County Board's Grounds for Termination of Employment of Doug Hume. Whereas the Madison County Board is the legislative and executive governing body of Madison County. Whereas the board has been advised of and reviewed allegations and evidence regarding what it believes to be misconduct on the part of employee Doug Hume. Whereas this misconduct was a misuse of powers entrusted upon Doug Hume as county administrator for Madison County, causing the board to lose confidence in his ability to continue to perform his job. Whereas Doug Hume was provided prior notice of and an opportunity to attend this hearing, review these allegations by this board, and as required under Madison County personnel policies for county appointed officials and department heads, section 10. Whereas the actions undertaken by Doug Hume were outside the bounds of ethical conduct and standards that are expected for someone in his position of leadership. Whereas it is believed his conduct is violative of the public trust. Be it resolved that this resolution is a memorialization of the findings of the board supporting termination of employment. Notice will be given to Doug Hume that his employment with Madison County is terminated effective May 17, 2020. Be it further resolved that because Chairman Prenzler on April 15, 2020 placed Doug Hume on paid administrative leave until May 17, 2020, no action was required by this board regarding administrative leave as it has already been put into effect. If, however, at any time prior to May 17, 2020, Chairman Prenzler revokes or cancels said administrative leave, by votes, such leave shall then be automatically reinstated by this board effective immediately and until May 17, 2020. Be it further resolved that the following written notice will be sent to the last known address on file with Madison County for Doug Hume regarding termination of his employment, and that said notice shall be substantially the following form. Notice of termination. On April 16, 2020, the Board of Madison County voted to terminate your employment. Pursuant to resolution passed February 21, 2018, the effective date of your termination is May 16, 2020. You are hereby directed to immediately surrender any and all property belonging to Madison County, including but not limited to electronic equipment, including phones, computers, tablets, any other electronic device, identification and access badges, keys, passwords, all physical and electronic digital files, folders, documents, software, and all information contained therein or derived therefrom, files, vehicles, any other items or things of any nature which were acquired from or through your employment. You are directed to provide these items to Rob Schmidt or Bruce Cooper by 9 a.m. April 17, 2020. You are prohibited from accessing Madison County property and are prohibited from communicating with any Madison County employee regarding your termination. Any questions about this matter should be directed to Bruce Cooper. Dated this 16th day, April 2020. I believe they both read the same, just with the different name. So that was what was prepared.
Do we have a,
Chairman?
Anyone have a motion? Yes, Mr. Minner?
I would like to get this on the floor and vote on it, so I'll make the motion that we accept both of these resolutions.
One at a time.
Well, we have to do one at a time.
I know.
One at a time. I'll take the first one, Mr. Dorman, please.
We have a motion to, how do we say this? We have a motion.
The resolution.
The resolution.
We have a motion for Mr. Mr. Minner. This is resolution reflecting the Madison County Board's grounds for termination of employment of Rob Dorman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Are you seconding the motion?
No, Kristen seconded it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Kristen.
Oh, got it. So we do have a second?
Yes.
Any discussion?
Me.
Chairman, I have a comment.
Ms. Dutton, please.
I just want to say that while most of what he read sounded okay, it's not in front of me. I have not read it physically. It's kind of like signing something without reading it. I would prefer it be sent to us so we can look at it. I'm not doubting that it's not correct. But he went over it very fast. The connection is bad. I'd really like to see the written words because I've not seen it before. So that's my take. I don't want to vote on a resolution that wasn't on the agenda and was not in our packet. So.
Very good. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, Don Moore. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I thought that Mr. Gibbons alluded to there's more than one resolution that was pre-prepared. Is that correct?
There's one for Mr. Dorman and a similar one for Mr. Hume.
Yes.
So only the two?
This resolution regards Mr. Dorman.
I was also asked to prepare an alternative resolution for placing them on leave without pay, but that was not the vote of the board, so that became moot.
Very good. Any other comments or questions?
Can I make a motion that we table that resolution?
That proceeds.
Can I be recognized, Mr. Chairman?
We do have a motion second on this
motion.
And then we did have a motion to table. So I think the motion to table takes precedence.
Second.
Do we have a motion to table? Do we have a second for that?
Second, Mike Walters.
Mr. Chairman, this is David Michael. Can I ask a clarification from our state's attorney?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Gibbons, I just have basically, since we took that first vote, does this resolution just automatically have to follow? Is that kind of what you're thinking? Or, I mean, it sounds like they're one and the same to me. But do they have to go hand in hand? Is that what you're saying? Like the first vote triggers the second? Is that what you mean? Or can you explain it maybe?
Yes, that's a more accurate. The first vote, without the first vote, there's nothing to do. The second, this resolution is a written memorialization and includes additional information, especially like the notice, for example. So
okay. So is this just standard? I guess if we, I think in my time on the board, we terminated one other department head. I assume this was that. I just can't recall. Was this same notice, I guess, sent to he or she?
Yeah, we give the written. That's when you terminate somebody, generally you don't like hand them a document, but you send them a document.
Mm-hmm.
So, you tell them orally, you tell them verbally, and then you send them the letter confirming.
Okay. So you're saying this is like in the place of the actual letter from the board.
Mr. Valentine, could you please mute your phone? Mr. Valentine?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Sorry.
Ms. Coon?
So I'm trying to listen to this vote.
Yes. I had a question, please. This is Judy Kuhn. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wanting to ask on this resolution. Normally, maybe this was a little bit different situation, but it seemed like normally we did get to read it ahead of time before we voted. So since this is a different situation, didn't we normally have a time period we had to read it before we actually made a vote?
Yeah. No, I don't have
any other comments or questions?
I did vote to fire both of them. I'm
asked the question. I would like for the state's attorney to answer that, please.
Yes.
Okay, that's a question. Ms. Kuhn has a question for the state's attorney.
Normally speaking, most of the resolutions in business happen well in advance with lots of notice. When this meeting was just called a few days ago, we received a request for the specific resolution. I mean, it's more than a few days ago, but in relatively recent time, and have been attempting to accommodate all of the requests and questions of the many board members and elected officials that have arisen throughout this process. So I apologize that this hadn't gone out sooner, hadn't gone out to you in advance. And so that, that's all I can say is limited staff, limited time, COVID-19.
Very good. Any other questions or comments?
It's all,
Yes,
it's all okay
Yes,
to vote
Mr.
on it
Chairman.
anyway, I think.
A point of parliamentary procedure.
Mr. Chapman? Yes, Mr. Chapman?
Yes, I was wondering if what Ms. Dutton really wanted to do was postpone it until a future date rather than table it. And if so, when do you plan to take these up?
Ms. Dutton or?
I think Christie.
I just want to read it. I want to be able to see it written is all I'm asking. It's probably
No, I
fine. This is standard.
I understand all that part of it.
Mr. Chairman, you recognize.
Clear. What I wasn't was
Wait, I can email them right now and give time to read
you
them.
do want to take it up at a future date.
Mr. Gibbons is offering, if everyone is willing to wait, he'd be happy to email it to you this evening.
I can email it right now. I'll step upstairs and send it to each of you if you want to read it now.
Sure.
Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, before he leaves, I've got a question for him.
Yes, Mr. Gibbons. No, I'm sorry, Mr. Wesley.
Okay. Does this resolution have to be acted on tonight, or could it be acted on at a future date?
Well, so I think generally speaking, when you are going to send someone notice of the action, you want to do it right after it happened. That's what this contemplates. I'm not saying it can't be done in the future. There's nothing prohibiting it, but it's certainly the timeliness of a notice of this nature would generally want to be in very short order.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you.
This is Jamie. I just pasted the text of the resolution into the chat window in GoToMeeting, so everyone should be able to read it.
Let me take a picture.
Please promise me you're going to put some hand sanitizer and or wash your hands. You touched the document I touched, and I.
Jeremy, Jamie, where do I look?
No, I got it.
As soon as I handed that to you, I
Not a problem.
Can we take a picture of it?
If I could give everyone just a moment to look in your chat box and take a look at this resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to look at it, but I am a little frustrated being a county board member, and this is the first I hear of this. I mean, if somebody asked this a few days ago, I think it should have been sent to all the county board members. And I'm not blaming anybody, but this kind of sounds a little iffy to me that it pops out right now. If this is something that should have been sent out, then we should have received this information a couple of days ago when it was asked. Instead, we're sitting here reading it now. I think this is wrong. This resolution should have been sent to us when it was asked or when it was written up. I'm not blaming Mr. Gibbons or his office. It just should have been sent as soon as it was written.
I received the final draft about 4:24 this afternoon, I believe. So I apologize for the delay. There have been extraordinary demands on a very limited, not accessing the office staff, and so there's no excuse, but that is why. That is a reason. So I apologize for that.
Mr. Chairman, this is Chris Guy.
Yes, Mr. Guy.
Can we still get this emailed? Jamie, I don't see the whole text on there. It ends at whereas it is believed.
Mr. Gibbons is going to his office to email the resolution, both resolutions. Yeah, I would expect both resolutions.
I believe they can all scroll down if they want to read it, but if he's sending it.
Yeah, Rob Henke is saying that you can scroll down on your in the chat box, and you should be able to see the entire resolution.
Scroll down where it says it ends at whereas it is believed. So it doesn't have the whole thing.
Yeah, it's cut off.
That's what mine does as well.
Okay. Yeah, it's not all there. Sorry, I didn't know if you.
Yeah. Evidently, it's not all.
Mine
there.
as well.
I was gonna say if Mr. Goggin wants to send a copy where that stops and paste it second part.
Guess there's a limit how much we can paste in at once. Is fine.
I believe I just got the rest of it in my chat box.
I did as well.
I got it.
I think that's all of it.
Okay, yeah, now it is. Yeah, the rest of it is there.
I have a
Mr. Chairman?
question.
Yes, Ms. Kuhn?
Yes, could I have mine emailed to BJ Kuhn?
I believe that is your email, and State's Attorney Gibbons is in his office.
Oh, he's emailing. Oh, okay.
That's
Gotcha.
it.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Yes, Ms. Dutton?
It says in here that because Chairman Prenzler on April 15, 2020 placed Doug Hume on paid administrative leave until May 17th. Did you pick a date? Did you say May 17th?
I did not. I just put him on administrative leave. I did not state any termination date on that.
Okay. That seems to be incorrect then on here.
Is that something that could be amended?
Probably. We'll wait for Mr. Gibbons to get back.
Could Mr. Ezra weigh in on that?
Mr. Ezra, are you on the line?
I am. I believe that the May 17th date was chosen because that is essentially the last date, the 30-day notice that would be the end date if we started today. It wasn't intended to assume that the chairman assumed that date as being the last date. It would be the last date he could possibly do that if the 30 days went into effect today. And if you read the next line, I believe, it indicates that if he were to decide that he was going to revoke the suspension earlier than that, then the 30 days would still be in place.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Ezra, you're thinking that an amendment is not necessary?
Well, that's up to, yeah, I mean, I personally don't know. Mr. Chairman, if today is the day, or it's been passed today, tomorrow goes into effect, then the 30 days would be the 17th. If you wanted to provide them with a suspension beyond that, that would be a different issue. But currently, the termination requirement under the ordinance says 30 days, and that's as far as you're getting. So that they're getting. So the theory would be that you would have to independently do something beyond that date, or if you did something before that date, that they still get their 30 days starting tomorrow.
Basically, the suspension would end with the termination date, with the end of his employment. Is that correct?
That would be the theory, yes.
Just be another mistake.
Yeah. I mean, you should vote against it anyway. So, I'll prove a poison tree.
Mr. Prenzler, Don Moore.
Yes, Mr. Moore.
Since we got a little downtime here, I'd like to request my fellow board members again that I know Mr. Gibbons said he couldn't say what names were involved, but I'm very interested, and I think Madison County should know who the board members were that created and had written up these resolutions, and then who got with Mr. Gibbons that was part of this effort to see that this action came before the board tonight for a vote. I really think it's important that this is, to stand out there and say that they did this. This is not, it's not a shadow government. We should know who that they should be proud of this. I think since this is such a slam dunk that everyone agrees that these two gentlemen should be relieved of their duties. I'm just asking my fellow board members, just for me and the county, to to stand up and say that you were the ones that got with Mr. Gibbons to ask him to prepare these resolutions and make this action happen tonight.
It'll be an interesting deposition. Any other questions or comments? Evidently none.
To promote commerce nationwide. It's put there by the framers, not me.
Rob, whose phone is that? Oh, Ms. Kuhn, could you, no, she's muted. Judy's muted.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, what?
I think everything's okay. There may have been some noise.
Coming from her phone.
Yeah. Maybe a
It was,
TV or
yeah.
something. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, this is Dalton Gray.
Yes, Mr. Gray.
In reviewing the document, it says the suspension ends on May 17th and the date of termination is May 16th. Should those dates be aligned, or is that written properly?
I don't know all I know is that it was yesterday that I put them on paid leave, and so I don't know.
Could Mr. Ezra speak to that?
Still in the call.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gray, say that again, please.
Yeah, in reading it, it looks like the suspension ends May 17th and the date of termination is May 16th. Is that written correctly,
Right,
or should those dates be the same?
Technically, they will not get notice until tomorrow. Theory being, since we are late tonight, they would technically get notice tomorrow after hours today. So the 30-day period would begin the next business day, which would be tomorrow morning.
And the date of termination should be the day prior to the ending of the suspension, a month from now?
I'm sorry, I lost you on that, please.
Yeah, so the suspension ends May 17th, which is a month from tomorrow. And the date of termination, unless I was reading that wrong, is May 16th.
Oh, I see now where you were going. Yes, in all probability, since they're being noticed tomorrow, that would be the date.
Thank you.
It says 30. And then in addition, it's 1 week for every year, up to 4 weeks.
Mr. Chairman, this is Chris Guy.
Yes, Mr. Guy.
While we're waiting here, need a final. You see in the chat box under notice of termination, it says on April 16th, 2020, the Board of Madison County voted to terminate your employment pursuant to a resolution passed February 21st, 2018. So we know that date needs to be corrected. But it says the effective date for your termination is May 16th. So are they obtaining 30 days of pay?
I don't know the answer to that question. Mr. Ezra, would you like to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I was doing something. I apologize. What was the question?
Looking at it says notice of termination. It says pursuant to a resolution passed February 21st, 2018. So we know we need to correct that date. but it says the effective date of your termination is May 16th. So are they receiving 1 month's pay, how this is written?
Yeah, they are employees of the county during that 30-day period. They will be receiving their regular pay. If, for example, and I'm making this up, this is just an example, if they were doing something in the scope and course of their employment and wound up with a workers' compensation claim, they would be covered as an employee of the county during that 30-day period.
Okay.
And that is
Thank you, Jeff.
pursuant to the ordinance.
Okay.
Judy?
Yes.
If you could please move your phone, we're getting a little noise.
Yeah, I know. I went to the other room because my phone keeps going dead. Hold on a second. Is that better?
Sounds good to me. Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
Sorry about that. My phone went dead when you were in executive session and I couldn't get back in.
Mr. Chairman, this is David Michael. May I ask Mr. Ezra a question while we're waiting?
Mr. Ezra, you're still on the line? Mr. Ezra, are you on the line?
I am.
Yeah, Mr. Michaels has a question.
Great, thank you. Hey, Jeff, thanks for your work on a lot of this, but I do have a question. I guess my question is,
Yeah.
once we made the previous vote, it would just seem logical to me that right away the resolution just goes into effect, and that meaning the resolution that was passed on February 21st, 2018. I mean, as a board, we set policies and procedures to me for that reason. I don't think we need to make redundant resolutions, right? Like, I mean, the whole point of passing the original resolution in 2018 was so for instances like these, to me, so that as soon as we take an action, that just automatically goes into effect. And it seems like to me, this is just a redundant proposition here. So I guess my question is, what is lost by passing or not passing this, and what is gained by passing it? You know what I mean? Like, what do we gain by passing the second one?
I do. One of the advantages, the potential advantages, is how can I say? Should there be a need in the future to rely on certain evidence for questions regarding procedure, that we would be greater protected by having a resolution in place. We are now in an open session, so I'm hoping that people understand what I'm talking about.
Okay. No, I think that makes sense then, if that's the reason. I mean, it would have been great if we could have been presented that first and then said, oh, we have to do this because of this, instead of, I mean, this thing almost went to a vote and half of us haven't even seen it. It's kind of to me backwards, but I guess if that's what you're telling me, that makes sense.
Yes.
I agree with David Michael. I don't know why it's needed, but I'm not an attorney.
Let's me up and I need to.
Are we going to vote to table it, or are we still waiting to read it?
It's in our mailboxes now.
Yes, she did. To table.
I read it. It was in my email a few minutes ago.
Mr. Gibbons is not back. Would we like to proceed? Mr. Ezra is on the line. Would we like to proceed without Mr. Gibbons? Where are we? We have a motion to table. I think Mr. Chapman raised a question whether it may be there may be a motion to postpone. But that's up to you.
Yeah, that was my question, because then for sure it's got to come up again, which I'm sure it would, but it's going to automatically come up again. It has to if the motion is to postpone rather than table. But a table motion, you could keep it tabled forever. I don't think anybody would, but you could.
Ms. Dutton,
I'm fine with tabling it. I just don't know, does it have to have a special meeting, or do we wait for the next county board meeting? I don't have, if someone has guidance on that, I'd appreciate it.
I have a question.
yes, Mr. Parkinson?
Does this, by tabling this, does it slow down the process by which we may pay out more money?
I don't know. Mr. Ezra, would you like to weigh in on that? Mr. Ezra, are you on the line?
I am. You have passed you voted to terminate, but the concurrent with that is the notice, which is part of the ordinance. And if the notice was not given until a day or 2 or 5, whatever, then the 30 days would run from the date of the notice. That would be my opinion, because they are entitled to the notice.
But if this resolution was tabled, then that would not be, what would that mean?
Well, tabled means it has to be brought off the table by someone later on down the road. It could be on the table indefinitely or forever. Postponed it can be postponed for a date certain, or a week, or tomorrow, whatever you want it to do. Tabling means it could consistently go away forever until somebody brought it off the table. So I'm not sure that that's exactly what you want to do. That's up to you. That's what I think Mr. Chapman was alluding to with regard to the difference between tabling and postponing.
Correct.
Okay.
I have another question.
There's the second part of that.
Go ahead, Mr. Parkinson.
So, is it necessary that we have a vote on this, or is it something that you can just send as part of that resolution? Or if Ms. Dutton has read it thoroughly and understands and it's part of just the legal process, is it something that we should just go ahead with to avoid having to have another special meeting to approve it in a few days?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Mr. Parkinson. I agree with that, but I kind of also agree with David Michael when he said that's what we passed in February of 18, that resolution. Everything is stated in there what happens when you terminate someone. So is this just redundant? Is it?
But do you have to I get my question is, do you have to actually follow through on what the handbook says and deliver it to a person by name?
Not
I mean,
the
the handbook tells you what to do, but legally you have to do that. And then do you have to do it by a certain date if you want them gone by a certain date? I don't know. That's would have been better to have it ahead of time, but we don't.
We're on here, and if we can act on it, we might as well. Otherwise, we're going to have to meet again to act on it.
Very good, Mr. Wesley. Would we like to, I think you've all received it on their chat. Would you like to act on it now, or Ms. Dutton, would you like to withdraw your motion to postpone per Mr. Wesley?
I'll withdraw my motion to postpone to table. I'll withdraw.
Who seconded the?
Walters.
Mr. Walters, would you like to withdraw your motion, your second of the motion to postpone?
Yes.
Yes? I hear you say yes. Okay, Mr. Wesley, would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we bring in the first resolution and concerning.
I think that was concerning Mr. Dorman. I believe that was the
Mr. Dorman.
Yes.
For passing.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut off Mr. Wesley, but I think did you have the? Can you want to read that resolution? I think Mr. Gibbons took it with him. but I think I did read it into the record.
Yeah,
And so we do have a motion to pass this resolution. We had a second.
Holiday was the second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, down more, if I could, please.
Yes, Mr. Moore?
I find it irregular that we don't know the source of these resolutions. Mr. Gibbons, for all we know, could not be telling us the truth. I have no idea. He won't say, and I understand that if there are people that did it that don't want to say anything, that I know he doesn't have to say, but I don't know if there's really people behind these resolutions other than his comment, because no one's willing to step up and say they are. So with that, I don't know. I just want to make that a comment. Thank you.
Very good. Any other comments or questions before we do the roll call? Hearing none, roll call. I vote no.
Ms. Coombs?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
No.
Mr. Chapman?
Abstain.
Mr. Michael?
Aye.
You a copy as well.
Mr. Madison?
We're voting on. Yes.
Mr. Wesley?
Yes.
Mr. Walters?
I emailed them to you, so you have
Yes.
Mr. Holiday?
I just don't want to see
No,
it.
Yes.
It's terrible.
Mr. Malone?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Pollard?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Ms. Dutton?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'm going to do that right on camera.
I'm gonna do
Mr.
it.
Hankins?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mr. Minner?
Be my little performance art right here.
Proof he said yes.
That's right.
His phone connection might have dropped, but
Okay.
his.
Nodding. Mr. Parkinson?
Mine ran out, it's my personal one.
Yes, and could you turn off their microphones up front, please?
Ms. Navasich?
Yes.
Mr. Foster? Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Petrillo?
Yes.
Ms. Glasper?
Yes.
Mr. Goggin?
Yes.
Mr. Guy?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Dalton?
Yes.
And Mr. Chicano? I think he left. 20, motion passed.
Motion carries. What's this, the second resolution?
Okay.
regarding Doug Hume?
Was that, okay.
was for
Do you want to just read the title?
Yes. If I, it's okay.
Okay.
If I could have a motion regarding resolution reflecting the Madison County Board's grounds for termination of employment of Doug Hume. If I could have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Wesley, a second?
Second, Chris Hankins.
So we have a second, we have a motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, and I would like to lead off by voting no.
Ms. Coon?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
No.
Mr. Chapman?
Abstain.
Mr. Michael?
Aye.
Mr. Madison?
Yes.
Mr. Wesley?
Yes.
Mr. Walters?
Yeah.
Mr. Holiday?
Yes.
Mr. Malone,
Yes.
Mr. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Pollard,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Ms. Dutton,
Yes.
Mr. Hankins,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
Mr. Minner.
His phone must be out. Can he give us a thumbs up or?
Mr. Minner, can you give us a thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you.
Mr. Parkinson,
Yes.
Ms. Navasich,
Yes.
Mr. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Petrillo,
Yes.
Ms. Glasper,
Yes.
Mr. Goggin,
Yes.
Mr. Guy,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Dalton,
Yes.
motion carried.
Motion carries. Any unfinished business? Any new business? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We
Second.
have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Evening. Happy birthday, Tom McCray.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Tom.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Tom.
Happy birthday, Tom.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday, Tom.
Yeah, thank you.
He turned his off.
Door locks on this. I know you gotta, I wanna make sure the door locks from that one. I'll leave everything.
It's an iPhone. Is that yours?
Oh, yeah.
Good. All righty. How about this? Rob, good job. Excellent. You're getting, this is, I don't know if, maybe we'll rent out the county boardroom, you know,